hearing my request tonight. I'm speaking on behalf of the Scotland County Arts Council. We call it SACS. It's also been known in the past as the Storytelling Arts Center of the Southeast. It's all the same thing. I'm Doris Sharber. I live in Laurinburg, have been here for 30 years or so. I am currently the chair of the board of directors for the Arts Council, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Arts Council tonight. The Arts Council has been in existence for the last 15 years, serving Scotland County. Our goal is to serve a diverse population and we have a mission of trying to unite and enrich the lives of our community through arts endeavors. We have a very active board of directors. They represent the three major cultures in our community. Many of them are here tonight, and I would like for you to see them. If you all would stand just for recognition. Thank you. We're located in the old McNair department store downtown on the corner of Roper and Main Street. And we have activities within that space often. In the past, we have endeavored to build positive relationships in Scotland County. We're a nonprofit, and we've partnered with other groups within the county. We offer a variety of programming. We do classes, we have family events, we have musical events, we host theatrical events. And this is all under the care and tutelage of our board of directors. We do receive some city and county financial support, and that we're allowed to use pretty much as needed. We get state grants. Those pretty much come directed to us as to how we may use them. Much of it goes towards artists, and it has to be according to the demographics of our county. So much of it is not allowed to be used on administrative things. We also get United Way dollars. Those are going for programs and supplies, not for people. We currently have a part-time office person who's there from 10 to 2 Monday through Thursday. And we have a contract for doing some public relations things. We believe we could do a better job and more things with being able to have a full-time director. And that's what we're requesting assistance with, dollars that we could use for a full-time director. That would allow us to be open Monday through Friday with probably 10 to 5 kind of thing, and allow us to have more personnel that we would balance between all of the activities that we do.
Ms. Sharber, if you can end in about 30 seconds, please.
I will. On your page 4 of your document, there are lots of things that we have been involved in. Our most recent was Saturday, the Indigenous Peoples Celebration at McDuffie Square. It was a great event. We miss seeing some of you there, and we look forward to our next events. We have several activities upcoming, and we are spending a lot of our time getting ready for fall things that we'll finish up in December. Again, we appreciate your concerns and interest in the arts and look forward to doing more in the new year.
Thank you, ma'am. We will consider your request. It may not be something that we consider this evening. Thank you so much. Next, we have Loretta McNeil.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Loretta Renee McNeil. I live at 721 South King Street, Laurinburg, North Carolina. I sent a request in asking to be considering Juneteenth as an official local holiday in Scotland County, North Carolina. As you all know, we're approaching the 250th year of this celebrating the Declaration of Independence. We too, about 45 years ago in Indianapolis, fought to get a national holiday. As you all know, we got it last year, Juneteenth. We, of course, are at the forefront in Scotland County with being very inclusive. We would like for this holiday to be recognized throughout our county so that we would show unity in the end of chattel slavery, and that we will also better understand the history of our country and what it means to all of us. Do you have any questions of me? I did submit a letter to the
Yes,
board.
ma'am. We have, I assume, I've got a copy in front of me. I believe everybody does.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, can we ask a question?
Ms. McNeil, if you'd come back, please.
My question's for Ms. Sharper and their group.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Ms. Sharper, if you don't mind coming back, please.
Yes.
Ms. McCall has a question.
I did. Your request, I want to be sure I understood it. Is that for 2 years?
Yes. Yeah, and we expect ourselves to be self-sufficient beyond that. We just need,
So the
Some money to get going.
50,000 is for a 24-month period.
yes.
Right. I think that's something we need to be clarified.
Right.
Okay, thank you. That's
Okay,
all I had.
Does any other commissioner have a question? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, is it appropriate at this point to make a motion to celebrate the day of Juneteenth? If you requested Mr. Reverend did, is this appropriate time, or should we do it later in the meeting?
I believe there is item number 7 on our schedule is the holiday schedule that was submitted to us for approval. I believe that would be the appropriate time to take
Okay,
that up.
that'd be fine.
We have a consent agenda in front of us.
I have a question on that,
Go ahead.
if I can.
Yes, yes, sir.
And it goes to some of the releases that are listed, and I don't know if Beth's here. It's here. There's a utility billing on there for $1.3 million. I don't think I've ever seen that on our releases or what page is that? It's not going to tell me, but it's the letter from Marty Pate where it breaks down everything. Number 6 is utility billing total of $1.341 million. And I have no clue what that is because there's nothing on the bottom for that where the other ones are listed. It just says utility billing, but it's from the tax department. So
Mr. Patterson, can you?
I'll have to verify that one. I'll verify that.
We'll just remove that from.
Well, that, and also if it's in the utility system, it is also, we do get our utility appraisals from the state in September. So this may have something to do with that appraisal, but I can verify that with the tax office.
So I can make the motion to approve the consent agenda, removing item B,
Yes, sir, you may.
and then we can carry that over to another.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Or removing the utility billing release.
Yeah.
If this is your motion, Mr. Ivy, would you like to omit the utility release or all of item?
Just the utility billing part.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a motion to approve the consent
Follow
agenda
on.
minus the approval of the item that Mr. Ivy has mentioned.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Gibson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. At this time, we have a couple of special recognitions, and I'm going to call first on Commissioner Reverend B.J. Gibson
Thank you.
for presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Many of you may have heard about 2 weeks ago in our community, a family was able, by the grace of God and the courageous efforts of their daughter, to survive a terrible house fire. If I can kind of paraphrase it very quickly, in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, I think to be exact, this young lady was awakened to actually use the restroom, I think, and there was smoke and fire all over the house. She managed to wake her parents up, help them get her siblings out of the house. When they got out of the house, one of the parents realized that one of the kids was still in the house. He went back in, very disoriented, picked up a pillow that he actually thought was the baby. And when this young lady realized that it was not the baby, she dashed back into the house, got the baby, and brought the baby back out. We feel like, as a Board of Commissioners, all heroes don't wear capes. They're not on football fields. They're not on basketball fields. Sometimes they're just simple people who save their families. And so tonight I want to ask Mr. Robert Sampson if he come forward, who is our Public Safety Director, along with Ms. Samantha Dutch, who is our 911 Director. It goes even further to say that the mother of this family is also an employee of the county, as she is one of our 911 telecommunicators. And so I'm thankful that our board has agreed tonight that we would recognize the heroic efforts of Kalia Harrington. Kalia, would you come forward at this time? Recognizing the heroic efforts of Kalia Harrington, whereas Kalia Harrington attends St. John Holiness Church and sings in the choir, and whereas Kalia is active in the NAACP Youth Council and is the 2002 NAACP Youth and College Division Youth of the Year, and whereas Kalia attends Carver Middle School and was taught fire safety, and whereas on the morning of October the 29th, the fire started at Kalia's home, and whereas Kalia acted bravely and heroically to make sure that all members of her family were out of the house safely, using the techniques taught to her in the fire safety class. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Stockton County Board of Commissioners that the heroic efforts of Kalia Harrington be recognized and celebrated. Due to the quick thinking and action by Kalia, the lives of her family were saved. The Stockton County Board of Commissioners encourages all citizens to celebrate Kalia Harrington for her bravery. Proclaimed this 7th day of November 2022, signed Mr. Wick Gibson, our chairman, and Jason Robinson, clerk to our board. This young lady, Commissioner Fatter, also has a gift. And I want to ask other commissioners that they come around and just give this young lady a handshake, a hug, and let her know how proud we are and thankful for all of her efforts. We celebrate.
If y'all want to go back up there, I'm gonna get Adam. Adam's gonna get a picture with everybody.
Oh, you want some pictures?
If y'all stay up there and let him get a picture.
A picture, come back.
Yep, yep.
Thank you.
Can we give another round of applause?
We have an item later in the program, item 17 or something like that. It's the recognition of two of our commissioners. I'm going to move it up from 17 to
16.
wherever we are, 2 or 3. Just because there's 30 people in this room now, if we do it at item 16, there'll be
Two.
So at this time, I'd like to ask Carol McCall to come up and Betty Golson. Y'all need to come join me.
He waited till you sat down.
Wait, just sat down.
These These two ladies are retiring as county commissioners. They have both served on this board for a number of years. I'm going to start with Carol McCall. Carol has worked for social services in
I mean, I
Scotland
don't
County for
mind.
100 years. About 35 years, and she has been a commissioner for the last 12. I'm going to offend my other commissioners by saying this, because I've said at times that she's one of the best commissioners we've got. She does her homework. She probably has worked as hard at it as anybody I've known for the last 12 years. And we appreciate so much her service. Penny Golston and I go back a long way. We go back to the time we spent in prison. I became superintendent of Cameron Morrison Youth Center in the late 70s. That time she was an educator at school at Cameron Morrison Youth Center. And we got to be pretty good friends. I will tell you that as time came on, she, in 1975, began as an elected official on the town board of Waverham. And she served there for 12 years. After that, she ran for school board. I had a great friend who is named Dan Dean, who no longer lives here, but we were talking one day, and he said, we always get together and kind of predict what the order of the finish is going to be in all the races. And I had Betty Golston as number 1. He had Betty Golston as number 5. She came in first, and she was a school board member for 12 years. And I'm not going to tell you the years because I don't remember them. But still, she spent 12 years on the town board of Waverham. She spent 12 years on the school board of Scotland County. She was elected and served 8 years on the Scotland County Board of Commissioners. And she served 8 years, and then she was gone for 4 years, ran again, came back and has served 8 years, starting 8 years ago and ending tonight. She has been elected and been part of more elections in Scotland County than anybody I know.
So ask my age.
She's 49. Oh, I'm sorry, she served for 49. But Jenny and I go back a long way. She's just a very good friend. It's been great to be in Scotland County. These both have just served well. Like I said, I could have made that same comments an hour and a half from now, but none of y'all would be here to be here. We appreciate that you being here. Please give them a round.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
Would you give me a minute?
Commissioner, did you join some of the-
Sure.
This is a gentleman that in 1975 knocked at my front door and said, I think you had a letter. I can't figure out where the letter is. And he said, you have now been appointed to the town board.
Come on up there.
After I had a group of women who went and complained about something. And he came to my front door in 1975. And I really appreciate it.
These ladies presented to Carol McCall in grateful appreciation for 12 years of service as a Scotland County Commissioner, December 6th, 2010, to December 5th, 2022. Any blue Golston. When I call her, I don't call her Betty, I call her Betty Blue. And a grateful appreciation for 16 years of service as a Scotland County Commissioner, December 9th, 2002 through December 6th, 2010, then December 1st, 2014 to December 5th, 2022. And next on our program, coincidentally, is Reverend Howard Whitehurst. Because I've been our representative to the Senior Tar Heel Legislature for some time now.
I was trying to figure out how long I've been doing this job. I think it's at least 10 years. And we haven't seen y'all for a while due to COVID and other things, but it used to be that I would show up about once a year. But anyway, here we are. Sheila Swift is here. She's right over there. She is the alternate for the Senior Tar Heel Legislature. The Senior Tar Heel Legislature, for those of you who may not know, meets 3 times a year to study issues that affect people 60 and above. And some of you know that the number of people in that age category is increasing. In the last 2 decades, that population has about doubled. So there is getting to be more and more of us old folks around. One of my colleagues likes to refer to us as seasoned citizens. I tell him I have no problem being called old. I am old, okay? I'm this far from 80. I'll be 80 before the month's over. Anyway, there are a delegate and an alternate for each of the 100 counties in the state of North Carolina. We meet 3 times a year to take up issues that relate to senior citizens. And we're commissioned by the General Assembly. That was in 1993. A law was passed that established our organization. And our purpose is to study issues related to senior citizens and then to advocate for the senior citizens to the General Assembly. So we go up and we try to see our legislators, keep in touch with them, know who they are, and that sort of thing. So we meet 3 times a year, and every other year we come up with a list of priorities. They come up with 5. And you have a little goldenrod sheet in front of you, I think. Those are our 5 priorities. We are concerned about what goes on with feeding folks in the county. And by the way, we serve at your pleasure. We're appointed, and y'all are the appointing agency. So I think somebody gives you some ideas, but anyway, that's how we came into being. We are concerned about a lot of things that relate to senior citizens, and we talk about a wide variety of things. One of the things that came up in this county that I was asked to take to the Senior Tar Heel Legislature this year was the concern that we have that people who come to visit you in your home to bring you health care, those people are on the front line, the people that actually touch you and help you are getting wages of somewhere in the range of about $10 an hour. And one of the providers of these services here in Scotland County was complaining that you can't keep employees. Duh. $10 an hour for somebody to come and bandage you, take care of you, take your temperature, your pulse, and those kinds of things, and do things for you, and you pay them $10 an hour. So there's some folks here in Scotland County asked the Senior Tar Heel Legislature to take that up and to consider it and to make a proposal to perhaps the legislature. Well, that particular concern was batted around, but we did take it. It didn't get to be one of our 5 priorities, but it was considered. So that's how things go through us in order to get to the General Assembly. But in front of you, you see some of the things that we're concerned about. We're concerned about adult protective services. We would like to see more money put into that. Senior citizens in a lot of places are being abused, sometimes by members of their own family that take advantage of them. And we're trying to see if we can do something to help with that. Senior centers. There are 2 senior centers in Scotland County, one in Laurinburg, one in Wagram. And we're trying to increase the funding that goes to those. I think a lot of you know the kinds of services that are provided by senior centers, the work that they do to give seniors an activity to participate in. Sheila Swift participates in some of those activities. I do not participate in a great many of them, but I am around. Another one is to increase reoccurring state funds for the community block grant. Some of you may be familiar how the community block grant goes. Money comes into the county. It helps to feed people. It helps to take care of people. It helps to see the ramps are built and things like that for a lot of people. We continue to be concerned about that. And we've got approximately 10,000 residents statewide on the waiting list to receive services. That Meals on Wheels and those things, a lot of those things come out of some of that money. Our number 4 concern was long-term care institutions. We have several of those here in the county. And we have an omnibus person that checks on those. If something is going on that is hurting somebody or things are not being done right, these folks are the ones that monitor those places and helps them to meet state laws and do the things that they need to do in order to provide adequate services. We are also concerned in our number 5 with the staff to patient ratios in some of these long-term care facilities. You know, if you are a registered nurse or licensed practical nurse, there are state standards that say how many beds these people can take care of. So you have to have a consistent number. But what they don't say is the people that actually touch you in these institutions, the nurses' aides, the ones who come and feed you, bathe you, groom you, do other kinds of things for you, those particular people, there's no limit. You can have as few of them as you can get away with. And we're trying to get some standards put in place that will take care of that. We don't want people going to these institutions and not being taken care of. So those are our priorities and our concerns that we are promoting before the state legislature at this time. And I would be glad to hear any questions that any of you have. Our main function today was Sheila and I wanted to come today just so you'd get to see us, know that we're still here, we're still working, and that there's an organization called the North Carolina Senior Tar Heel Legislature.
Thank you, sir. Do any of you have any questions?
Thank you very much. And
We-
we appreciate your support. Thank all of you.
We do appreciate the work that you do, and we have gotten your reports in the years that you weren't able to come before us. We appreciate both of you and serving us and representing us in that legislature.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. April Sneed.
Good evening. I'm here to represent SCATS for a few minutes. So we have a public hearing scheduled for tonight, somewhat for a twofold purpose. First, I feel is a pretty easy part to accept our fiscal year 23 ROPE funding. That's an allocation from DOT, of course, of monies that help with your public transportation. And you can see at the top of your page, there's 3 pots of that money. One is EdTap. That is for senior citizens and disabled people to go to medical appointments. We get employment funding to do just what that sounds like. We transport people to employment and employment activities. And then we get something called RGP, which is Rural General Program Funding. And that RGP is what takes all those other people so far that are not seniors and are not disabled places in this county that they need to get, like shopping, doctor's appointments, pharmacies, really almost anywhere they would like to go in the county. So you can see on here, I've put that our funding has dropped from fiscal year 22 moving into this year. Part of that is because we have not, if you don't use the funding, what do they start doing? They start reducing the funding, right? That's what we see typically with grant allocated funds. And so the second part of our public hearing tonight is thinking about our options for using our RGP funds. RGP funds are the ones that are most flexible for us in every county in public transportation across North Carolina. So you can say I gave you a few bullet points about our history. If you remember, I was here about this time last year and we were talking about our fixed line of public transportation. And we looked at all our stops and we increased some of our stops and added those to our 2 buses that do like this around Laurinburg every day and have fixed stops, right? And we also increased that transportation to go out to Gibson, Laurel Hill, and Wagram once a week to try to get those people into town. Unfortunately, that hasn't worked as well. Our participation in that hasn't been what we would hoped. And I think that's still because it is hard for people in Wagram and Laurel Hill and Gibson to get to where we need to pick them up from. We've only had 5 people take advantage of that in 8 months. So I'm here to propose 2 different options to you. One that will increase the RGP funds that we use and that we don't give those back to the state, and that will increase the ridership for the people that we are still not giving transportation to in Scotland County. If you can remember us talking about where's the gap in services in Scotland County, that's the person that is not a senior citizen, they are not disabled, and they live up somewhere out in the county. We don't service those people right now, but we do have an opportunity to do that. So I'm gonna make this short, throw those options out for you, and you can see them. They're on the back of your sheet. We offer 2 types of transportation in Scotland County. The fixed line, like I described. We have 2 buses that do like this all day long. That requires 2.5 drivers every day, and those buses drive 257 miles every day. If we don't have passengers on those buses, we don't get any reimbursement for it. In the last 8 months, we're only averaging 23 people a day between 2 buses. So we don't have a lot of ridership on that line. The other type of transportation we provide is, it's called on here, demand response. That means citizens call us, they schedule a transportation, we pick them up from their home, take them to their spot, and drop them back off at their home. And so that's the second type of transportation. What I'm proposing is that we can use our RGP funds that we're starting to lose to provide everybody in the county that second type demand response, which means then we would grab those people and offer the people that are up in Marston or are out in Wagram or Gibson that aren't elderly and aren't disabled, they could still call. We could bring them into town and we could take them back home. If they're on the bus, we're getting reimbursed. So I've said a lot. I've thrown a lot at you. We have a couple of, we'll have 3 options. We can say just like we are now. And I feel like we are losing money on our fixed line right now. If we're averaging 20 people a day, we're driving 257 miles and we're paying 2.5 people a day. Our second option is to do a hybrid method, right? We could stop 1 bus and do more demand response and keep the other bus riding the fixed route. Now that will increase the length of time people are going to be on the bus, and it's going to decrease the amount of, not the amount of stops, but how often is stopped there. It'll get stopped there once every 2 hours versus once every hour. But people will still have the opportunity to say, hey, I want to hop on the bus today, right? And it'll still be at those designated stops. And then our third option is to go all demand response, with the caveat that if somebody does have an emergency, we can slide them in our schedule. You know, we would have to come up with some kind of protocol for what constitutes an emergency today. You didn't pre-plan your trip, but you're sick. Maybe you need to go to the ER. Maybe you need to go to urgent care. And you don't need an ambulance, but you need to get there today. And so we'd have to come up with some protocol for that. The beauty of demand response, when the wheels are turning, we're getting reimbursed for the trip. With fixed line, if nobody's on the bus, that's all county money. And we're not using those RGP funds that we're entitled to. So I have thrown a lot at you.
I've got I've got some questions.
Absolutely.
If you went to the option 2, where you're doing the all demand responses, does that mean the people that are currently riding the bus would have to call and ask to be picked up?
Yes.
Okay. So you would have, we believe you would have 23 people a day who were going to be calling you for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Approximately. And we have, of course, we have systems where we know where our heavier stops are. Most people are going to Walmart. We know where we're picking people up. So we know where our highest use of bus stops are at right now. So I was thinking through that. Can we accommodate those extra riders? We can, because we would have 2 additional buses to put on the road for this service. And the drivers are already in place. This would actually free up a part-time driver. Right now, the way we're staffed, if anybody is sick, we are having to cut trips that day. If a driver would like a vacation day, we have to stop some kind of service. We are staffed exactly how we need to be. Looking for part-time, but we just haven't been successful yet. So this would free up that part-time position that if somebody's sick, calls in sick, we have somebody to call in and keep services going as we already had scheduled.
But if we leave it like it is, where will we get to the threshold using county money?
We're
We're using our people's money, but then we get to the low point. How far we did from that now? Getting ready to use county money.
So now we're using county money every day. If only 23 people are riding, but we're driving 257 miles, we're tapping into county funds every day. There's already a 10% match you have to give, right? Like within most grants. But as you can see, I believe on the front, last year we gave back $25,000 just because people weren't in seats.
If you go to the appointment way of doing it, do you have the staff to answer the phone and make these appointments? I hate for people because I can't ever get anybody on the phone.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you're gonna have to really have an office staff to deal with this, right?
Well, and we do that now. Most of our trips every day are scheduled. All medical trips. Remember, we're running Medicaid transportation trips, trips out of town. So the fixed line is this much business per se to this much business that we already do. So we have one staff person that's dedicated to answering phones and creating schedules. And she has a supervisor as her backup as well.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But on this on demand, all demand, and we go back to the 23 people a day that I'm assuming they're still going to need that same ride, but I guess I'm trying to figure out how does it save instead of running that route or that circle, even with one bus, if you got 23 different requests today, one to go to Marston and then bring them back, and then they got to go to Gibson, and then you still end up doing the same amount of miles, but
So what
Or more.
happens with our other routes right now where we don't have routes? So you may have one bus with 8 people on it. You have a Medicaid trip on that bus. You may have an EdTap trip on that bus, a COG trip. And when I say trips, I mean reimbursements. And so these people would get weaved into the schedule. So they wouldn't be riding a bus alone. We may go to Marston and pick up 2 or 3 people and bring them all back into town to their stops.
But do they have to do that in advance? I mean, or could they call and?
That right now we are set up for a 2-day in advance call.
But I mean, I might not know 2 days from now, I need to go to Walmart to, I mean,
You are correct.
you know what I mean? I don't know that. I'm
You
just,
are correct. And so a
I'm
lot
just
of-
wondering if it's going to save any miles at all. I mean, if it's going to do anything.
I don't know that it'll save miles, but I know it will increase reimbursement. Now we're driving the miles without the reimbursement. Now we won't start the bus if there's nobody to get on the bus. And so if people are on the bus, you're counting a trip and you're getting your reimbursement back.
And you get,
Um,
you get mileage for both going to get them and taking them back,
Yes.
including
Mhm.
driving the empty bus back to where it's headquartered.
Yes, because you're going to get a trip. Each way is a trip.
But you're going to get,
So if the reimbursement is $11 for an EdTap trip, you're going to get $22 to get them from home to Walmart and from Walmart back to home.
are you getting reimbursed for getting to Gibson to pick them up?
No, that's going to be part of
The county,
providing their transportation. Correct. Absolutely, there will be a learning curve for our public because it's something different. It's something new. The 2-day call in, that is new for our public. You know, we don't,
It sound more efficient that
ma'am.
way though, to call in to make these appointments, so don't be running around in circles, you know, using gas and time when you don't have to use it, so.
It is more efficient. You know, for the passengers, I guess it's all what you prefer, right? Some people prefer to go to a bus stop and don't mind riding the route until their stop comes up. Other people may prefer us come to their door, bring them somewhere, and take them back to their door.
is that one of the advantages, that the person from Wagram who calls, they're not having to go to a stop? They're being picked up at their door.
Yes.
So you're thinking that the number of people who will use it is going to increase because they're not having to get some
Right.
central location.
There is the potential for the people in those townships and way out in the county to start using this more. And so we'll have to look at that. I mean, will we get an increase to the point that we can't handle all this transportation? Then we'll have to see what we're going to do with that, right? We want to strive to serve all the public, or see if we're going to have to increase what our fleet looks like and what our program looks like.
What mechanism do we use or will we use to make sure the public is aware of whatever decision, how they know?
So, of course, now if we want to put something out, we use our Facebook page, our county website, PSA, WLNC. WeWo lets me come down anytime I like and talk. We would probably put this out at least a month or more to make sure. Our drivers do an excellent job of talking to those passengers as well. So those drivers, just by word of mouth, will say, hey, there's a change coming. You know, take this, and explain to them. That they do a great job. We asked our drivers about this too, because they're the ones driving around. They interact with the public to say, what do you think? Because they see the same 23 people most of the time, right? And, you know, what do you think? How is this going to impact people? How are they going to feel about this? And there are some people that the drivers tell now, you don't have to stand at the bus stop. You are eligible for EdTap. We'll come pick you up at home. And they still just stand at the bus stop, right? Maybe they prefer it. Maybe they don't understand. And so it'll be a toss-up. I'm sure there will be people in the public that like it the way it is. And I think we have to decide, do we have enough to justify continue running those lines like that? Or do we help them transition to what I feel like would help them spend less time on the bus?
I think we should try it.
So, Ms. Sneak, your recommendation, is this what you're saying, Ms. Golston? Your recommendation is that we do the one fixed line and one demand, see how that works, and then eventually go to both lines being demanded.
Right. I feel like let's try this hybrid option. Like, let's don't go cold turkey on people who like the fixed line, and see, and we can educate them about going to the demand response and see what we get.
That makes sense to me, that you give them, you're going to still give them the opportunity to ride the bus. It may mean that their trip's going to be 2 hours instead of 1 hour, but they still, I think, have that. There's still going to be an option. If they don't want to wait at home for that, they know they can go to the bus stop and catch it, and they can reacclimate their time they expect it to be gone. I think that's still going to appeal to them rather than having to call.
Right.
Now, they may find out that they don't want to do that and they would rather call,
Mhm.
and we can consider the second option at a later time. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. And this does open up for those people way out in the county. Now they can get here and they don't have to worry about getting to the Laurel Hill Recreation Center or the Wagram Town Hall.
They just have to know in advance that they're going to do it.
They do. They do. And that's the people that have been doing this for some time. You know, SCATS has been in operation for a long, long time. And there's always been that 2-day call ahead. That's not something that DSS changed. And so those people are accustomed to doing that.
Not the fixed line people though.
Not those 23
That,
fixed
that's
line
the,
people.
that's the ones that's going to.
Those are the ones that we'll have to work with.
The, now, if we decide that we're going to use that option one, you would place that into effect at least a month from now. Would you wait until after the first of the year? What would you
We
do?
certainly can. We always know this is a busy time of year. There's all kinds of things going on, all kinds of announcements going on. And,
Do you have increased bus riding during November, December?
not really.
Okay.
I mean, not
Probably
that you would
should've
make
done that
a real note about.
You just said, so if you're asking this board for a recommendation on which of those options to take, and then that is what the public hearing will be in regard. Is that
Right. And
correct?
you'll approve receiving your rope funds.
So you ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to offer a motion that we accept the recommendation coming from Ms. April Sneed in regards to the road funds and the changing routes.
Do we need to do the public hearing first?
Well, I was,
Well, we
We need-
probably do need to see if there's any comments or.
yeah, what I think, what I'm looking for, I think now is, and you tell me if I'm not going the right direction, is we need to decide which of the options we're having, and that's what the public hearing will be on, that and the monetary amount. Okay, so we've got a motion
I'm confused
to,
now.
I'm going to call it, if you don't mind, option one. That was your
That's
motion?
correct.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion?
I said,
Okay. All in favor? Any further discussion among the board?
I wanted to ask or make this point. In your recommendation, or do you think you're allowing yourself enough time to actually evaluate whether the on-demand is gonna work? And so, I mean, this
Yeah.
is November, we've got Thanksgiving and the holidays, and then January is here. I'm wondering if we should push that out just a little bit for the evaluation piece, if this is gonna be
We're okay with that
profitable
because
for the citizens.
even in November, or especially the month of December, we will probably see some of our transportation decrease, like medical appointments. Some of those get pushed back. And so that won't be a true picture of what transportation on every day looks like
Yeah.
anyway. So we are okay with pushing it back. I feel like it's my responsibility if I see routes that are not making the most of the funding Scotland County is entitled to. We need to talk about that.
Just give yourself some flexibility and not be bound to that January 3rd date.
Just come back
Yeah.
if she needs to.
So Mr. Go ahead.
No, I think the motion and the second really doesn't have anything to do with the notice.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
And that's, yeah,
Yep.
she can decide what's the best way to implement this. So any other discussion from the board in regard to the motion that's before us? Hearing none, all in favor of going with option one for the SCATS program, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Now, at this time, we are going to have a public hearing. We will open the public hearing in regard to the SCATS busing program and the budget that is indicated on here, which is going to be the 79,855. And then we will go to the option number one that is listed on the back. Is there anybody present or online who would like to address this group in regard to this
We have
proposal?
it online. Yes. We don't have anybody online. We don't have an online thing.
Anyone wish to address the board in regard to that proposal? Anybody wish to address it in favor of that proposal? anyone wish to be heard in opposition to that proposal? Hearing none, I will order the public hearing closed.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Economic Development, Director Mark Ward.
Now, with that, before the fixed line can actually be changed, we may need to have a separate public hearing on the alteration of the fixed line route.
I'm too damn confused.
That should not be.
I will say what we
We got that.
changed in the
Isn't that
Lombard
in the
Exchange outlined the fixed line and demand response and a change in service as well.
Mr. Ward.
Thought I saw something. that
We have a public hearing for Project Leapfrog. So we need to announce that Project Leapfrog was publicly presented as SEPACO. They made that announcement 2 weeks ago. SEPACO has committed to invest 440 jobs, $85 million into Scotland County. And part of their incentive package is a tax incentive. So you're going to see a letter that I provided to the company on June 27th. The only difference is our statement to them at that time was 450 jobs. The 10 jobs less does not really change anything on their matrix to provide. But we are, per the matrix that the county commissioners have gave myself and Kevin the authority to present, we are offered them a 15-year incentive that starts out at year 1 and 2 at 90, year 3 at 85, year 4 at 80, year 5 at 75, year 6 at 70, year 7 at 60, year 8 at 55, year 9 at 50, and years 10 through 15 at, year 9 at 45, and then years 10 through 15 at 40, and then years 11 also at 40%. I think I might have said that 45 and 40 backwards. But the incentive agreement letter that you see will show if they invest $85 million in the timeline that they provided, it is roughly about $5.3 million of a tax grant. Now, the client would be paying about $8.9 million in taxes. So they will still continue to pay after they are granted back $5.3 million. They will still pay $3.55 million in taxes over that 15-year period, which equates to about $237,000 a year. That is the only part with the county. You do see another letter that you are privileged to, that Scotland County EDC, the nonprofit corporation that is created by the city of Laurinburg and Scotland County elected officials, has also made an incentive offer to that company as well. So we are requesting that you, we did advertise this public
At this time,
hearing.
we will open a public hearing in regard to the consideration of the economic incentives to what is Project Leapfrog, also known as SEPACO. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this proposal? In favor of this incentive program? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition to this incentive program? Hearing no one, I will order this public hearing closed.
Motion to authorize the incentive.
And
Approve the incentive.
I will entertain a motion to authorize the incentive to be paid to this company.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second
We have a
that.
motion from Commissioner Alford and a second from Commissioner McCall. Any discussion?
Just one question. The 440, there's not a dime of this incentive realized unless they hit 440 jobs, right?
That is correct.
I
they
think
have
that
to-
was the kicker we put on it.
Yes, they have to create the jobs first. So if they deviated from this incentive number, I would have to come back to the commissioners to amend that incentive. If they created 300 jobs and only invested $40 million and we want to give them 90% of $40 million versus wait 85, that's something that I'll come back
Right.
to y'all.
But as it stands now.
But as it
it's
stands, and we do not anticipate, based on the company's conversations, that their job number will not be met, and they will not ask for this until they fully complete the facility and have the jobs hired.
Do they have a time frame? Like, who's gonna monitor them?
I'm sorry?
Who's gonna monitor them, make sure that they, you know?
Okay, the investment is reported by the inspection office. So when they pull a permit, they will say this is their cost of investment. Now, some of that investment is not truly a taxable number because they might say the building's going to cost $90 million. Well, they pay $90 million and we can show that with the permit, but our tax office might only say, well, that's truly only a $80 million or $70 million investment. So that will lower the amount we give. On the job number, they have to provide their NC 101 form quarterly that they report for their payroll tax. And I have to verify that number for the county incentive and any state incentives that they receive.
Mark, don't they have to requalify every year too and meet the threshold on an annual basis?
They have, for them to ask for their incentive payment, they have to provide me that number every year. For example, we might have a company now that qualified for an incentive 3 years ago. And when they pay their taxes in August, they request to me for their incentive, they have to provide me that NC 101 form showing their number. If their number drops lower than the number they projected on their incentive, I have to come back to you and ask for an amendment to their incentive package. They expect the facility to not be operational until December, November of 2024. So we're looking at least 2 years. They might pay a year worth of taxes on some stuff. The first hiring will probably also be probably in the third quarter of 2024. And they have until 2027 for the state incentive to hire all the jobs. So potentially they might pay taxes till 2028. And in 2028 is when they might have asked for their first incentive package.
Yeah, I'm just make sure I'm where we are. We have had a motion and a second. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Anything else, sir?
I'm also coming to you for consideration for a resolution of support. North Carolina Department of Transportation has committed to do the road into that park. They are going to do the turning lanes because, as you know, this is a site on 15501 behind the fire station that the city of Laurinburg is constructing. Scotland County Economic Development Corporation owns the property. The client is looking at a minimum of 50 acres now, which is going to leave another 25-ish acres left. So since the road could serve 3 different entities, NCDOT will pay 100% for the road, for the turning lanes, for the easements, everything being to be put in place. But with that being there, since it's such a large project, North Carolina Department of Transportation has asked for the city of Laurinburg and Scotland County to provide a resolution of support saying you endorse this project, you support it, and so that they can get the funding for it. I or another individual will be going to the city on Tuesday to get the resolution of support from them.
So we're seeking a motion for a resolution of support on this.
And I believe that's probably in your package.
It is. So I'll make the motion to approve the resolution in support of the DOT improvements associated with Project Leapfrog.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, sir. Beth Hobbs, Finance Officer.
Well, she is here. I didn't see her a while ago when I asked that question. She's behind the counter. I couldn't see.
Have an answer for that.
Okay.
In your package, you've got the more detailed report. On the screen, we've got a summary. The original budget for fiscal year 22 was 46 million. The revised budget is 51.9 million. Most of the revisions revolve around grant funds, additional sales tax, and property tax revenues. We brought in total revenues of $50,927,606. In that, okay, that's out. I was going to say in that budgetary total, 1.8 million was fund balance appropriated. We had total expenditures of $48,275,764. And estimated fund balance at June 30th, 2022 is estimated to be around 20%. In 2017, just to give an estimate, we were at 17% and 21.
What's the dollar amount of that?
Of the fund balance.
Yeah.
I did not write that.
Oh, you
down.
just got a
I'll
percentage.
give it
Okay,
to you.
that's fine. It'd be about 19 or 20 million, wouldn't it? Somewhere around there.
Unassigned is less than that,
Oh.
so I'll send that figure out.
It's all right, yeah.
Any questions? Anything further?
Unless there's questions.
The revenues, they do include about $1.7 million in grant funding that we've received throughout the year through state and federal sources.
Is that the American Rescue Plan grant? Is that
The county American Rescue Funds are not in these. These are in a different funds. But COVID relief dollars through the health department received were the state allocation of about $600,000 were in there, and there were a number of different grants that we received during the year that were not originally budgeted for, but were in here.
Do we need to take action on this? I didn't think so. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
The holiday schedule.
Holiday schedule.
We did put there was an error on the days for Christmas in the agenda packet. We did put a corrected holiday schedule at your table. I believe
This one.
one on the screen is also corrected.
I didn't leave
And
one. I
this
didn't see it.
coincides with the state holiday schedule.
I got the days wrong.
Uh,
I said Friday, Monday, Tuesday. It should be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
We have in front of us the modified state, it is the state holiday schedule. It's a correction from what had been submitted in your board package. I think the correction, just for your information, was the previous one indicated the Friday before Christmas and the Monday and Tuesday, where this was going to be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday after Monday being Christmas Day. Ms. Golston, you had wanted to have a conversation about Juneteenth?
Yes. And how would that affect the county? I mean, I know that employees would be off that day. And so overall, how will making Juneteenth a holiday really would affect our budget for holiday schedules, period?
Patterson?
With that,
Hey, what day is it next year?
June, it's June 19th.
Next.
In June 19th.
with that,
Just curious, what day of the week is that going to be?
I think it's always a Monday. It's
on
always a Monday.
It is Monday.
On a Monday. If it's on a weekend, it's on Saturday. It's usually the Friday before. If it's on a Sunday, it's the Monday after.
2023 is actually a Monday.
Okay.
And this year it was celebrated on a Monday because it was actually on a Sunday.
with this, adding it to a holiday schedule, we would close your non-public safety agents, non-public safety agencies. And with that, the additional cost would be public safety agencies do get a holiday pay because 911, EMS, sheriff, they can't take the day off. So with that, they get an 8-hour holiday payment. For EMS, 911, and sheriff and jail, you're looking at approximately 150 employees for 8-hour period of time. That would cost about $35,000.
Couldn't you just give it as a floating day for those folks?
Something like that was done by the governor this past year. He actually allocated, at least those under his authority, 8 hours of vacation leave to take throughout
Like
the
a
year
floating
that are-
day, yeah,
A holiday of your choice.
right.
At which point in time, state agencies were not specifically closed, I don't believe. But
Did they have to take it all at one time?
I don't,
You don't know?
yes, I did.
They did, okay.
I have a question. I want to see it happen. If only the county employees were celebrating, do we need to have a larger conversation, see if we can get more people to buy into this so it would be more meaningful? I want to see us do it. It's only 35,000 is not a right way to say it, but it won't break our backs to do it. But I wonder,
Is a city.
what could we do, to not just the city, but ask the chamber if they could talk it up and get industry to buy into it so that it would be felt. You get me? So I just, I think we should lead. There you go. Let's start going. We should lead it We got to start. and then see if we can get inclusion.
I brought this up last year, because other counties around us did it last year. I know Robinson and Holt, and I think maybe Richmond, and since then, some of the municipalities have joined in. There are different ways we can do it, but it is a federal holiday. It's not a floating day, it's not an optional day, it's a federal holiday. And I think it's no more than right that as a county, as you just said, Commissioner Offer, we take the lead, and then have those conversations with others with hopes that they will recognize it as the same.
Well, when I said floating, I wasn't talking about treating that as a floating. I was just the folks that,
Like
the emergency people that have to work,
Okay.
Well, and to me, we need to be aware that there is, when I say an additional cost, it doesn't increase the salary of any of our county employees, but they are getting 8 hours additionally that they're not working. So that is a cost, I think, to the county, and that's one less day the public has to call on all of these folks that are open, whether it's the tax office or whatever.
Mr. Chair, if I'm in order, I'd offer a motion, that we add Juneteenth as a holiday.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Can be effective for when?
2023.
We would just add it to that.
Do we need to incorporate that schedule into that motion? I mean, do it all at one time
Okay,
instead of,
gotcha.
you got what I'm saying?
And just
Yeah,
add that.
yeah.
So I will
Yes, sir.
redo my motion, that I would like to offer a motion that we accept the holiday schedule with the addition of Juneteenth being added.
There you go. There you go.
Exactly.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I don't think there's an appetite for doing what the governor did, and that's giving everybody the extra 8 hours, which I think is what I would have liked to have seen.
It gives people some flexibility on how they use that day.
Any other discussion, any other comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The chair votes nay. I am in support of June 19th being a holiday. I think it is more of an Independence Day to the Black community than the 4th of July is. I certainly understand that and agree with that totally. Next item.
Next item, we have received or you haven't received, and it's in your packet, an offer to purchase what was the laydown yard or the work area from the town of East Laurinburg for some price of $1,500. This is property. It was where the town kept its truck and lawnmower or tractor. It is backing up to what was, or now is a nice large pit where what part of Waverly Mills was. This property has no value to county government.
What is the tax value of a piece of property?
It is not appraised.
Okay.
Because the town of East Laurinburg's taxes.
Right. Just a comment, Reverend Tyson called me this afternoon and said that he was at a convention and that he would not be present tonight. He apologized. I don't think he knew that that convention was going to be on this night. And he just wanted you to be aware that was his request. He hoped we will look at it favorably, and he apologizes for not being here.
Kevin, if the board is inclined to accept this offer, it would then have to be offered for upset bid, right?
Yes, sir. That's the recommendation that the board
Assuming it's surplus and
Yeah.
authorized.
surplus it and accept the bid, which point in time it will be advertised for a 10-day upset bid process. And whether or not we receive additional upset bids during that time frame, it will wind up coming back to the board at the December meeting for final approval.
Is the upset bid process start the day it's advertised?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to see us do $1 instead of $1,500. Can we do it like that? It's no value to us. Why should we ask the church to pay $1,500 just for $1?
I don't have an objection to that. My fear is it's going to entice somebody to come in with an upset bid of
If $2.
$5.
Well, we got to make a decision.
Well, if somebody comes in and makes an upset bid, their bid, I would assume, takes precedence over.
Okay.
But I'm not,
No,
if you,
I see
now,
what
now.
you're trying
Well,
to
then you
do.
have to
I see what you're
re-advertise.
saying.
you would have to re-advertise.
And that would happen.
Okay.
And I think that's the number the church came up with, right? That's not our number, yeah.
Yes.
Commissioner McFadden, I like what you're doing, but I think we may
Yeah.
end up chasing that dog for a long time if we do it that way. I'm sorry, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion for
Motion for 1,500, second
Surplus and 15.
surplus and 1,500. Any further discussion, any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Good decision, folks. Property transfer to Southeast Community Action.
With this was.
Is there anybody in here who wants to be heard on that? We have any other folks that are here for that? Can we skip down and cover those things that I know we've got people here that are waiting to be heard. Does anybody have any objection if we do that? Is that okay?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. Tonight, instead of an update, it's more of information that I want to bring to you.
And I know who you are, but I'm not sure everybody else in the room does. Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Amanda Deaver, the health director here at the health department. Instead of bringing an update, it's more of information purposes. The 5 months that I've been here, I have had a lot of phone calls and people asking me, what is the process of getting a temporary food, to be a temporary food vendor or to establish a business here. So tonight I've invited my environmental health supervisor, Valentina Oxendine, to provide some information to you guys.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Like she said, my name is Valentina Oxendine. I'm the Environmental Health and Animal Control Supervisor here for Scotland County Health Department. Miss Amanda asked me to kindly speak about our information as far as permitting processes for our TFE vendors or our events and our new and existing food establishments. We've had quite a few events happen already this year, and we're still getting a lot of questions about the process. temporary food establishments, there's usually a coordinator or a host that's hosting those events. It's their responsibility to submit an application 15 days, no later than 15 days prior to the event. So it gives us a little bit information about the event that's going to be taking place as far as like food preparation, sales to the public, what's going on. The application gives us an idea if the coordinator will supply electricity for the vendors, a water supply. How are we going to dispose of our waste that we are creating at the event? In that coordinator's application, it also supplies us with a vendor list. Who's the vendors going to be participating? What are they going to be cooking? How are we going to protect the public? So we require just a minimal checklist of things that the vendor has to purchase in order for them to operate outside. It helps cut down on, us preventing a foodborne illness outbreak in our county. So we regulate that. That application for a vendor is $75. We go out, we make sure that they have everything on that checklist in order to receive a permit. We have been getting some questions about what qualifies me to have an exemption. What qualifies me not to have to pay $75? That's more for like our nonprofit organizations. Our churches, some churches have nonprofit status. That is with the Secretary of State. We get the questions of, well, I'm tax exempt, I'm a church, or I'm tax exempt, I'm with the Chamber of Commerce, just throwing out different scenarios. But in order for you to be classified as a nonprofit organization that is with the Secretary of State, and you are able to go on their website and find out your status, that is sosnc.gov. I'm sorry, I provided you with an informational sheet that is on that sheet as well. Churches are allowed to, or nonprofit organizations are allowed to sell no more than once a month for 2 consecutive days without requiring a permit. Now, if your church is like my church, we have different organizations within our church. We have the women's ministry, we have the men's ministry, we have the youth ministry. That exemption only counts for 1 time a month, no matter what ministry there is. Okay. All the applications for a temporary food event is found on Scotland County's website. Any questions about events?
I guess the question that I might have is, has something changed recently? Is there,
No, sir, it has not.
okay, this is, okay.
Well, you're making the distinction between a church and a nonprofit. And I don't know this, but I'm assuming churches are not nonprofit. I mean, they're looking to, am I right? I mean, in reality, they're not a nonprofit, but they may be a charitable. But so my question is to that, if a church is having a large barbecue sale or fish fry or whatever, are they exempt or are they not? Or are they're only exempt if they're a nonprofit?
It depends on their status. If they are a nonprofit organization, they have that status with the Secretary of State.
Right. But if they're not, let's
If
just
they're
say if they're not,
then they have to pay the $75 just like anyone else.
and be inspected and be
That's
all
correct.
the other stuff.
Yep. So now is our time where our churches are having the big plate sales, and we don't want to discourage our churches from having that if they're nonprofit. We just ask that if you get the exemption letter in, so that we have something in place in case somebody says that I went to your church, I ate a barbecue sandwich, and I got really sick, and now I want to sue. Then we have something to fall back on state, and that this was in place. Nobody that was working there got sick. We cooked food to proper temperatures and held them until the customer got it.
Question. $75. What if they have a multi-day? More than one day? Is there
So if
each day?
no,
Oh.
if there is an event that's taking place for 3 days, then that $75 covers them for the amount of time at the event.
But if it's 2 days, they may not have to pay the $75.
That's with your nonprofit organizations.
And it's
So there's 2 different things.
Okay.
There's your vendors that can set up underneath the tent and they can sell food.
Is there a difference between a nonprofit and a charitable?
Say that one more
That's kind
time.
of what I was saying.
Is there a difference between a nonprofit organization and a charitable organization?
No,
As
it,
long as
they still, there still is that nonprofit status
Okay.
that allows them to sell no more than one time a month for 2 consecutive days.
as long as they're recognized by the Secretary of State.
Right.
Yes.
But now you're taking,
There are some churches who have been in existence forever and never applied to the state for tax exemption status. And a lot of them run into that issue with this because they are church, they know they're nonprofit, they know they're a charitable organization, but they've never
Gotten the
got the
designation.
501c3. And I can say it's because of some of the events that we've had, that's the issue that you run into. Churches who've been around 200 years have never gone through that process.
Right.
So what is the answer that you need, that the church needs to apply for that
They would have to
designation?
apply or either
Pay the $75.
All right, and this is a different question, and this is probably, if a church is having an event and it has people coming to the church to sell food,
Mhm.
they are they, or would they not be covered by the church's nonprofit status?
It depends. If the food that they are selling, if the money that they are receiving goes back to the church, yes. If the food that they are selling and they're going to use the money for their own gain, then they would need a permit.
Or if they themselves were a nonprofit, they would be
That's
exempt.
correct.
Is that, is,
the $75, whether you pay the 75 or not, are we also talking about the need or the requirement that they be inspected or followed, whether they have to pay the 75 or not?
Yes. Just like with our recent events, if we had some events within the county where there is a vendor that's paying $75, but then we have a nonprofit organization that's participating also, we make sure that they have items in place just like the vendor that's paying $75, just ensure that there is safe food handling practices.
So what is the difference other than $75?
That's it. You have the vendors that sell food that are nonprofit that pay $75, and then the nonprofit organizations with that status can sell food for 2 consecutive days with no permit needed.
No permit fee, but they still have to have the inspection
Yes,
permit and all
yes.
that. Okay. So that's where you were losing me on it. I was thinking, okay.
again,
They're just not granted a permit.
and this is not, none of this is new.
No,
Okay, and all of this is available, publicized on your website.
yes.
Okay.
And I just provided you with one. And we're going to be giving out flyers because that's something that we've been having a lot of discussion about.
How big is your staff, say for instance, getting ready for John Blue Festival? How do you manage, how big is your?
I will tell you that environmental health consists of 7 delegations of authority. Right now, we have 1 full-time staff that is able to regulate all 7 of those delegations, which is myself. We have an intern who is in training, Miss Harley. Hopefully soon we will have her going out along with doing food inspections. And then we have 2 part-time employees that work in our on-site program.
Okay.
Great job.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Oxendine. Come to
There
us.
was another part.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We also have had some recent permitting, new establishments, some questions about that. So the discussion about that is that in Rule 2658, plans drawn to scale for franchised or chain food establishments shall be submitted to review by the Environmental Health Section or the Plan Review Committee at the state. When it comes to independent food establishments, so we're going to say our mom and pop places, those plans have to be submitted to the local health department program. Okay, there's difference there. And then we charge a $250 plan review fee. Now, we work very closely with the building inspection department, so our building inspectors and our fire marshal work closely with getting those places permitted. But just to kind of throw this out there, is once the building and fire inspections issue the final on the building, is when environmental health comes in for permitting. Okay, once we issue permits, that establishment is operational. Okay. In case you get any questions about how things, if things have been in the past, that's not,
But none of this is new either.
no,
Okay.
it is not. And depending on the processes they do, depends on how many times they get inspections a year.
And once it's inspected, is it inspected every year?
You have your category 4s, which are 4 times a year. That's your big establishments. We'll take Golden Corral as your big establishments. Your 3s that are inspected 3 times a year, which is a Smithfield. And then we have 2s, which is like our food stands, our pizza places. And then our 1s, which are a lodging or institutions.
Last question.
Yes.
If a establishment, like you say, not say go around, establishments, it's grade A. I noticed since grade A has been pretty, numbers been pretty low. How long do they have to bring it up?
So according to our rules, if they drop a letter grade, so we're saying from an A to a B, then they have 15 days to correct things on the inspection sheet and call environmental health for a reinspection. But it's up to them to give us a call and let us know that they are requesting a reinspection.
But what is the real difference between the A and the B?
A big, when you drop below in letter A, there are more significant problems besides structural things.
I was concerned, be rating and, then you go in the restaurant, you want to know if you gonna be in trouble after you leave there.
Yeah, I will tell you that all of our inspections are open for the public, so you can go online to Scotland County's website and pull up any establishment's inspection and see what we marked for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you so much.
And if you ever see a C, just turn around and leave because
Yeah. I'm gonna run to my car.
coming
Yeah.
back in 30 days anyway.
Don't worry about it. If you eat there and it's bad for you, you'll find out.
Steve, do you have anything
I'm
else?
sure.
I just wanted to say, the information was not new, but there's so many people in Scotland County that was not aware of the process, so that's why we brought it.
Well, I just had to have the feeling that there was something
Something keyed this
Yeah.
to be brought to
Well,
us.
I'm new, 5 months in, and this is where I've gotten the majority of my phone calls from.
Okay.
So I just wanted to provide the information to the citizens so they're aware of what needs to be done.
Okay.
Thank
Are
you
you
for
gonna
that
give us a
information.
code? I'm sorry.
Oh, I can
Thank
give
you
you
for
a
that
copy
information.
report.
It was very
Our-
needed and
Community status level is still low. Let's see what our positivity rate is. Our positivity rate this week is 5.96. We have 66 people 66% of the population that's had 1 dose, 51 that are percent that's fully vaccinated. We have given out over 9,500 test kits at the health department since June. We currently have 26 cases in the county. We had a vaccine clinic on October 26th, and we gave out 76 of the fall boosters and 44 flu vaccines.
John had a question, sorry.
No,
Cut you off. You go on.
but I think I was heard.
Okay, you think you heard, okay.
They still giving out cards.
No, we ran out of cards in July.
Yeah, people do ask about those cards.
We ran out of cards in July.
So you say we got 26 active cases in Scotland County right now.
Right.
That's pretty low, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
How many you say in the hospital?
We have 2, I think it is, in the hospital.
It may disappear next time you come.
There are probably
Yeah.
still other people who are doing it, but as have it, but at home testing and everything else.
Yeah, at home. You
And
don't
now
get
with
a
this,
count
you have a
day.
lot of people who are just staying home for a week and they can go back.
It's never.
So
the
we really
same.
don't have a real count then, with this home testing, right?
Right. But we do know what the severe ones are.
Then in the hospital.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And we've got 6 or 7, 8 more items on the program. I know there's 2 gentlemen in here from outside of the county that are here for a specific item. Is there anyone else in here for a specific item?
We have representatives from North Turnpike community. They're concerned with the, getting county water to the Turnpike community and North Turnpike, so they are here.
And they're good, they are, what part of the agenda would they be wanting to be
Well,
heard?
it's just with the commissioner's comments, because I was gonna talk about it.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask Mr. Patterson to cover whatever the Richmond Community College people are here for, and then we'll go to that.
I don't see them on here.
Okay. We'll go to that item next.
Okay.
Okay. With that, looking at the truck training facility, which was approved by the board last year, it's been right at a year ago. We did a phase 1 environmental. There was an underground petroleum storage tank on the property. Once it was reported, of course, it was then registered with DEQ. Before the state community college board will accept it, it will have to come off of the UST list. Basically, have a clean opinion from DEQ. Speaking with our environmental engineers, they've been working with DEQ. DEQ does have a program that they can come in and they can clean it up for free when they get around to it. And it is not a significant risk to anybody, so it will be low on their list. So it could be anytime within the next 5 years, potentially. Our engineers worked with DEQ to find out what a scope of work would be for us to go ahead and get in and clean it up, and then for them to review the monitoring, clean up and then put in monitoring to verify that this is not a risk to surrounding properties, and then hopefully get a positive consideration from DEQ to remove it from, or get a letter of no further action, which is as good as DEQ is ever going to give on a property without a massive cleanup. With that, the approval on we got an estimate for to have that work done of $24,000.
How big a tank is that?
Sorry.
How big a tank is that?
Well, removing the tank and then putting in a number of monitoring wells.
Yeah, I get all that, but how big a tank is it?
I can't remember. I think it was a 500 gallon, or
Good
it was
God.
It was a small commercial tank.
Tank's already gone. This is
Okay.
about indicated. So this-
Oh, so the tank's not even there
The
now.
tank's not there, but because they found the chemicals in the soil, they're gonna have to have the soil mitigated, given its proximity to groundwater and the stream.
Dr. McInnes, if you don't mind, if you come to the podium, please.
Yeah, the folks online can't hear you.
Ms. Patterson covered it very clearly. The issue is that it's all about the soil. And the report that we got through Mr. Patterson was this: we needed to take this step so that we can move forward with the design. Right now, we can't get our architect to begin design work on the property until this stage is conducted, and we can't take title to it and get approval from the State Board of Community Colleges until this stage is conducted.
I thought it was almost built. I thought it was.
And additionally, and Dr. McInnes, you can fill in this blank too.
Yes, sir.
This is the the truck driver training school
Yes, sir.
has begun, but
Sure.
the college is having to rent a place to currently have it at not a small expense to them.
No, sir,
And-
that's correct. And we're grateful that the airport authority has been working with us on a temporary location, and we're prepared to use that over the course of the design and construction period. But this would be much more desirable to have a permanent site and location designed just for the training range and storage.
This is the place out at the airport, though,
Yes.
or before you get,
Yes, sir.
yeah, okay.
And just a little greater information. I think the college wants to have this truck driver training school here. They're going out of their way to make sure that we have it here. There are other counties surrounding us that would love to have the opportunity to steal this away from us.
We
So-
currently have 18. We started off with 16 slots. We added 2 more. We already have, I think, 6 paid in full for January. I think. That's right. And so we've had huge demand, great interest in it, and we're at full capacity right now and expect that to be the case for the foreseeable future.
Well, I heard on TV today that the salary can be expected between 80 and 100,000 at some point. I mean, it's such a need for truck drivers, so you probably gonna get a whole lot of more students.
Yes, ma'am.
But now, didn't we go through some transfer process with this? It came from somebody else and we gave it to somebody and then we moved it and.
We approved the transfer, the exchange of this property with another, with LMA, and then ultimately for the transfer to the community college. And we'll need,
We traded to LMA.
yes,
We ended up with it. Now we're giving it to Richmond Community College. But so why are we the ones that's going to be the one to eat it? I'm not saying anybody should or shouldn't, but how did we get into the ownership of it? The deepest pockets?
no, because ultimately for any capital requirement for the community college, the county gets to.
Yeah, but
Well, this was the property that I think that had been selected by RCC as a location.
It was recommended by the county staff and it had been foreclosed upon. And this was a ideal location for us in terms of the proximity to the location where we teach. The classroom is on our campus, so it's right down the road.
And with this, part of the engineering report, or I guess the reason for the wells is also get in monitoring the plume of any contamination, seeing exactly where that is, and figuring out if it is still flowing, seeing the pollutants have already been removed unless it's near groundwater. As long as it's stabilized, that is the best outcome.
I'm just getting back to why did, I mean, we gonna end up paying for it, but I mean.
Well, I think it's
Right, why, exactly, why? When if we would have, but anyway, and I'm not saying that against RCC at all. I'm just saying that we probably should have known this before we agreed to take it, and now it's our ball, so. I'm sorry, go ahead, I'm ranting.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. do you
We're
have
just here to
anything
answer your questions.
Okay.
That's all.
But that was what I was getting
Well,
to. I wasn't throwing it off on you at all. I mean, and I ain't throwing it off on anybody, but I
else?
just
Maybe
hate
we
to-
should have known then. but we
Exactly
didn't.
what I'm saying.
But we didn't.
Right.
And at this point, we either don't do it or we do what I think is the appropriate thing and go ahead and get it clean so they can take possession of it and we can have this program established here.
Is that it? We ain't gonna have to pay no more. They find something else, we'll have to keep paying.
If they get in there and they find the contamination is worse than projected, there could be additional costs. So there's no guarantee that there's not more.
I can't imagine what was there. There was a pump there that they used those trucks for that meat place, but
Well, I can tell you, you talk about contamination. If there's any kind of chemicals it seeps down over the years and it
Yeah,
can
yeah.
be, but what you gonna do? You clean it up? and you
I
keep
just hate
moving.
that we start digging that hole and start trying to clean it. And then this time next year, we got somebody here with a $250,000 bill because they found something else under there. So,
Well, most of this is doing monitoring wells. It's not soil, it's very limited soil remediation. This is primarily measuring the contamination burden.
yeah, but out there at that airport, you're liable to find anything after what went on out there over years. So I'm
And-
just worried that this is going to cause it's going to end up being a whole lot more. I'm not against doing it. I'm just scared of what's going to happen a year from now or what, because the stuff that went on out there at the airport, we all don't even know about. And,
Well,
and
if that's the case, we need to know that too. So
And
how,
if it's
don't dig the hole, we won't know.
contamination off that site, that would be different.
well, the chair will make a motion that we expend the $24,000 to perform the work to find out what's there.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. If you have the item, thank you both. Brent, thank you for being here. On the North Turnpike.
North Turnpike, we have received, well, Jeff,
No, I'm listening to what you're saying. I just want to make sure everybody hear you.
North Turnpike, we did put in an application last month. It was due the middle of October. So we have applied for construction dollars for that. We are waiting for determination from Diener from DEQ or CSBG on whether or not we'll receive those funds. So we have applied for that. The construction cost of that project was, our last estimate for everything was 9.7 million. And that was the full scope of project, which could be trimmed down depending on cost or any funding available. But right now we're waiting on the state to get all the approvals back in and complete. Those applications were due to be submitted, I believe, around October 10th.
So there were several applications for grants. There were several applications for this 9.7 million.
Yes. We submitted one for this 9.7, and then, of course, it was a statewide application. So we're in a competitive grant process for that now.
And we set aside from our own budget a certain.
750,000 for the extension of water for that.
Well, I guess you have told us what we need to hear, that the grants have been, you have put in application for the grants, and we are sitting here waiting. Now, how long do you anticipate, can you anticipate how long this could be?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember right off exactly what the deadline for at least preliminary determination is for the first selection on the grants on those. I'll find that out and I can send that information back there.
Now, we may not be getting $9.7 million, but you're saying that this project can be trimmed down to a more logical amount. Is that a possibility? I mean, 9.7 million is sort of a big hump.
Yes. If we get 1 million, that's not going to do a whole lot. But if we get funding for 5 million, we would be able to design a portion of that complete project that we would maximize use of those funds.
Okay.
But there would be people that would not be served. But we would go off and design a project based around the funding that we have.
You meaning that the amount of, the extent of the water distribution might not be as great as if we got the full grant?
Correct. If we get the full grant, we would be able to proceed as submitted, which some of that includes a loop in there, which is beneficial to the system but doesn't serve anyone. So there are ways of trimming that number down based on funding.
With the funds that we've set aside and the funds, the grant funds that we've requested, if we get them, that will construct the system. But the folks who live along that water accessibility will still have to pay to attach to the system. And
Yes.
but there may be grants that can be applied for that.
Yes.
But that's not what any of the money we've applied for
correct.
presently will do.
Correct.
Okay.
And once we get a construction, once we're able to fund the primary construction, we will also look for additional means of assisting those
Right.
that can connect it.
What I'm gonna say to the North Turnpike persons here tonight is that this is ongoing. This is a good sum of money, and so we have to apply for grants to get that kind of money. And I get off the board tonight, and I'm trusting that this board will continue to work towards solving this problem. Hopefully, it will be a priority.
We will.
You hear what John Alpha said, didn't you? Okay, so be assured that we're not gonna put it on the back burner, but as soon as we can get funds, we will continue this project.
I would also wager that if we don't do what Ms. Golston thinks that we ought to be doing, she'll be back up here talking to us.
I just run again for another seat on this.
You keep asking me about this project until everybody in this room has water.
Yes, yes.
And
Thank you all for coming. That's the deacon of my church sitting up here. So good to see you, deacon. Hi.
We'll continue to work on it.
We're going to move to the next, is there, I think we covered anything that the members of the public have been here for. It's y'all have been here for 2 hours, and I appreciate your patience for being here as long as you have. All right, let's go back and pick up where we skipped.
Looking at the, last month we discussed the transfer of property to Southeastern Community Action Partnership, part of the property at Johnson. I did have a meeting last week with some of their leadership team. They're currently working on a master plan for the project. What we discussed that they're looking at doing is coming up with multifamily residence on the property that they would be able to utilize their Section 8 vouchers to actually fund the rent. They have one other property like this that they serve and manage that stays at 100% occupancy. There are a couple of other agencies in similar programs across North Carolina that are doing this. So this is something that is not absolutely unique, but it does take some time to develop on this. I have another meeting with them this Thursday. We are going to meet out at Johnston, and I'm going to walk around the property, actually show them part of the building.
What are we, well, and being on that board, and we just had a meeting about this. What are we looking at the building of IEJ for? I mean, because this is the first time I've heard about the building being incorporated into anything.
I want to show them the building in case they want to move any of their housing program, which is.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. But for the purpose of tonight's discussion, we're talking about that property behind for them to build onto. And if they need more later, we could look at that. Okay. I just was confused as to what we were looking at here.
Yeah, we would go off and they're working on developing a master plan to create housing units on that property.
Right, right. I
probably
knew
closer
that.
towards
I knew that.
the Head Start facility. And we're going to meet with them Thursday also to take a tour, look at relocating some of their administrative offices to that property as well.
Into the IJ part.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Would they
Two
be
different
tenants or
requests.
would they own the building
If they move their administrative offices into IAJ, they would most likely be tenants.
okay.
Yeah, they're tenants where they are now. So
Yeah, and with that, just because the difficulty in splitting that property, since it's also connected
Mhm.
into the other building for utilities. But the 5 acres, 2 acres, 9 acres that they would look to build housing on, the request would be for the county to transfer ownership to them. They would need to own the property before they could
build.
With that-
officially apply for the.
right. That's the problem they have is they can't design or whatever until they know what's available. So, if we went ahead and transferred the 5.5 acres to them, if we wanted to do that with a caveat, they got to do something in so many years on it. And then if they came back after they began their process, because that's when they can truly begin their process, and they need another 3 acres of that field or whatever, then we could have it surveyed and look at doing that then. But I mean, I don't.
So we're looking at-
I'm okay with it. I'm okay. Well, and just with what's there now, and just say, put that caveat on it. And then once they get into their final design, if they're going to need another 2 or 3 acres of that field, then we could go back and they could have it surveyed and looked at and done whatever with. But we're not going to do anything with the property. We're obviously not going to sell it. We've had it for 25, 30 years. So, at least give them an opportunity to do something with it since it's across the street from what they already have. So,
Chairman, if you intend to convey it, you first have to declare it surplus. If the board desires to do that, and then if the board desires to do a reverter, it needs to be in a motion as to what period of time the reverter would cover if there's a
Right.
specific
clawback, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
reverter clause in it too.
Is there any room out there for any of this property to be made into lots and sold for residences that could actually add to the tax base?
5 acres. What's that? 5.5 acres. So I mean, it wouldn't be a lot. 4 or 5 homes there. I don't know what the city
How many new
zoning
homes
is
have
for.
been built in that area in the last 10 years?
Maybe we need to encourage it.
And I'm saying if
And I'm not, I
these folk are talking about.
I
doing it,
wasn't here at the meeting when this was first discussed, so I'm
catching up.
I'm catching up, but I'm not opposed to what the group intends to do.
Yeah, well, they're looking at housing. They want to not only to expand the daycare, but they want to build some affordable housing there.
Well, I recognize that affordable housing is a need in our county. I'm not saying that that's not true.
And they're in a unique position to where they have the Section 8 vouchers. So, I mean, once they build it, it's 100% full. It's not going to have to rent it out or have to, I mean, it's going to be 100% from day one. So, infrastructure is already there, water, sewer, power.
It's a discrete 5.5 acre tract. Is there a survey on it or something so that the minutes will be able to reflect what piece of property?
That's what I just told.
There is property. It is property that the county already owned.
But I thought it was a larger piece this was coming out of. Misunderstanding.
There are 2 pieces. There's the property on IEJ that was under the School Board of Education. But thereafter, there was a park behind it that's 5 acres that the county that the county has owned for a number of years.
And that's a discrete, separate and.
Yes.
Yes,
If the board takes some action, it can be included in the minutes as the
yes.
DC.
Yeah, it's a separate lot in that IJ property.
What was your meeting? You have a meeting with them in the next week? What is,
Meeting again Thursday.
does that have anything to do with this property, or does that have to do with them being a tenant at the building?
Both.
Do we need to approve something tonight, or is this information? I mean, we could approve the transfer of the
Yeah.
property. We have that option to do that tonight.
And with this, if the board can authorize the transfer or authorize the negotiation of the transfer of the 5 acres wholly. Or if the board is also interested in this, I can when I meet with them Thursday, tell them, come back in, bring out your plan, and then we can get it surveyed out. And
But see, they're not gonna be ready for that because,
I'm just talking about a concept.
oh, yeah.
Concept.
But, and I mean, they walked that property. I know that part. Now, the IJ part is a separate issue, but I would make the motion tonight that we go ahead and surplus this property. We offer it to Southeastern Community Action Partnership, and that we have a reverter clause in it that it come back within 7 years if they have not converted it into housing or something, a benefit of the community. I don't know how I need to word that.
I think you probably need to be, if it's gonna be a reverter, it needs to be more specific than or some community benefit, because that's.
Okay, so they're in the reverter to say they have not converted it into a housing site, because that's the.
Do you, when Kevin was saying, or somebody made the section, for them to come back with some concept of what they want to do, do you know what they've talked about doing?
They can't plan it because they don't know how much they're gonna have. So that's why I want to go ahead and get the ball rolling with this 5.5 acres plus or
But surely
minus.
they have some idea of what they're going to try to do.
They do, but they got to get,
Well, and that's what I want is kind of the general.
what she proposed to us last time here was senior housing. That they would, and it would, right, 1 or 2 bedroom apartments that they could build in that acre, and hopefully maybe even have a little small community center in that. But the big thing was the 1 and 2 bedroom apartments that they could turn around and use their Section 8 vouchers with to pay for it.
Did you have any idea how many perhaps apartments they could put in that 5 acre tract?
I don't know. But that goes into their next thing of, once they look at that and see how many they can put in there, how much, if any, do they need of the other part of the land? Then that's when you get into the survey and if we have to deed that separately or whatever.
What they do know is if they put 20 or more units there, they can fill them.
Is that
Quickly.
is that the agency best for us to choose to do that? If it is, I don't have any objection at all.
I personally think so, just because once you do this, it's them. They're not going to be coming back asking us for money to do it or whatever. They're going to take the ownership of that, and our contribution to the project is done.
I would just advise the board that if you intend to put a reverter, you need to specify what is required that they do. So that if, in fact, 7 years or however many years you decide to build into the reverter, it's objectively verifiable as to whether they have complied with what it is the board expects them to do. Whatever it is you want them to do, if it's going to be, if there's a reverter involved, it needs to be specified.
I think the request was for housing.
Yeah.
So if the housing that they.
Well, if it's 20 units or.
I would like for the reverter to have some. I don't want them to give them 5 acres and they house 5 people.
Oh, yeah.
So we may need to allow for this conversation. before we move forward.
And
Well, Tim is our member on that board, so he can bring us back the information we
Yeah,
need,
and I,
along with Kevin.
But I mean, if the only thing here is that reverter part of it, I mean, we could say whatever we want to. I mean, you could act, I mean,
If
it's,
you're not gonna put the reverter in, just deed it to them.
no.
no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
Well, I don't, I think, and I,
Give away time.
not, if we, with Tim's motion, includes the reverter clause,
With at least 10 units, you could add that to it or something. I mean,
well, or at least house, sufficient units to house 30 people. And I don't, that's not my job. I think if we pass the motion, we leave that to somebody who we pay to.
Well, I
But
mean, I
that-
certainly can put the reverter in there, but I need to know what it is the board expects to occur for there not to be a reversion.
well, like I said, the reverter would be that they at least have 10 housing units.
Low. Well,
You don't even have to say low, just 10 housing units there, because if they're going to build it, right?
In the process, at the end of the 7th year, they need to have done it or it been.
Or in the process of doing
being done.
it. And I don't think it won't take 7 years, but
But
yeah.
it seems to me, I'm backing up here, I guess, because I would rather have some idea of what they're going to do with it before we actually make the decision to do the property.
Well, I mean, they said that that's what they wanted to do with it. And it was potential, they actually used the word senior housing. And
I like the idea of being senior housing, but I would like and would hope that they would be able to say that we can provide housing in this particular 5.5 acre tract, whatever that is, for this many residences to accommodate this many people. And that's what the reversion would be based on.
And it may be beneficial if the board is interested, because it's just under a 4.7 acre tract that's distinct.
4.7.
4.7, 4.6, at least on the GIS. But if there's right at 20 acres there, assuming we keep 10 acres for Johnson and for the additional parking lot that we're going to need, would the board be interested in transferring up to 10 acres of land to them for the construction of, and that would give them,
That's what I'd like to say.
that would give them a definitive plan.
How would you say we keep?
I would say 10 acres.
but we're getting back into, that's a process that doesn't have to be done right now. Because, I mean, they can't really get into a planning stage into this until they see, first of all, okay, we know we're going to have this 4.5 acres or whatever it is. Now we can get
That's
into.
not for housing.
Right, that's for housing. Now we
It's
can
not.
get into a design. And then we can say, well, now what do we need? But if we had an additional 5 acres, we could do another 20. I'm making these numbers
See,
up.
I guess what I'm saying is it seems to me like they ought to be able to do just what you did and fill in some blanks.
Well, she did that night. I thought, I mean,
Did you say how many
she
units?
didn't say how many units.
There was a presentation made to us.
Yeah. Dr. Whitaker wasn't here that night. She probably would have a better idea than Tiffany would, but I mean, for them to go in and spend a lot of money on it, trying to figure out exactly where and what doesn't make sense until they had a property either. So,
Well,
I mean,
it's-
unless they knew, I mean, we can do whatever, but that's why I
Property, let's agree tonight to give the 10 acre, with the, reversion.
But did they ask for 10 up front or just 5?
They did not specify a specific acreage that they
I think they actually asked for all of it at first,
And I don't want to
but
give the baby away and the bathwater.
I don't either.
I mean, give them some, let them start. If that works out, then we.
that's why I'm saying, given that lot that we've had for 30 years that nobody's done anything with right. The 4.5 acres, yeah. And it's right across from their Head Start Center and
Deed reference on it, Kevin, or something. I know there's not a tax number if we own it. 4.7 acres more or less, right?
Yes. I have a book and page on it, but it is
Real old.
there, book 70, page 712.
7.0.
Book 60, page 712.
Could that possibly be 6.0? Because there's not a book 60D.
Yes, 60,
At what page?
712.
That's the only piece on that.
That is the only thing on there. I do have a parcel ID number, which probably won't help.
Procedurally, let me go back. We have a motion. Tim has made a motion. Now, we used 5 acres. Sounds like it's 4.7,
whatever,
it is.
yeah.
But this particular tract of land, and that it would be subject to retrieval, reversion, whatever the term was, reversion. If they don't do what?
Have 10 units built or began to build within 10 years or 7 years. I'm just making the 10 up, but 4.5 acres is plenty of land. And plus if they use it for, community center, whatever else, but we'll say the 10 for now.
Well, I'm willing to second your motion, but I would like to leave open what whatever the word is, reversion amount will be, and something that we can all agree with. I'd rather not do it blind.
But he's saying we have to define that reversion in the motion, right?
Well, I'm saying we passed the motion agreeing to do it, condition upon the reversion having something that they and we can agree on. And 10 units may be fine, but it may not be. They may be able to put
What's that?
30 units. Negotiate the reversion.
I don't see it. I mean, I don't care if you want to do it. I just don't see a reason to do that. I mean, we're still not, that means we're still not transferring it to them. We could sit
Well,
down.
if they come in and they say we
But
can
we
do
could-
30 units and it comes back to this board in a conversation and we go forward with it. I mean, I'm not trying,
but
I'm not trying to
that's-
stop it. I just-
That's the same thing as having them come in right now and do it, instead of, we're not going to actually do anything until we sit down and have an agreement.
Well,
That's
well, that's kind of what I'm saying, but I'm saying we can go ahead and make the agreement that we are willing to do it. And if we can come up with what you think you can put on that property and we believe that's sufficient,
right.
then we've already, let it go.
I got you. Yeah.
And so if
That's a baby step toward, I think, what we want to do. But I mean, it's because we're still not committing the property to them. So
well, as far as I'm concerned, we are committing the property and
because you said it had to be satisfactory with this board. This board could be different next week.
It will be different.
And it could be, and all of a sudden that reversion is 60 units instead of 10.
Well, it will be different 7 years from now when.
I know.
somebody's trying to
Oh yeah,
whether they
definitely.
applied or not.
But I mean, that could be, that reversion then could all of a sudden be 60 units instead of 10 units. So I'm just trying to keep it reasonable on a 4-acre tract of land. How much do I think I would build in there? And 10's probably aggressive in that, but now if you're gonna build apartment units or townhouses, might be reasonable to do that. But once you consider parking and all that, but anyway.
My only point is you just want to have an objective standard for that board 7 years out.
Just say,
To be
right.
able to say.
And I don't think there's any board in the world that would say you gave that land to CCAP 7 years ago and they have built 10 houses out there and there's 10 families living in those houses and it's not worth, you know what I mean? It's worth keeping. I mean, it's worth letting them. No, I know that, but I mean, what I mean is that there's nobody going to think it's not worth that. So I don't, but I mean, we can.
I just asked the county manager, do we have to have a public hearing before the county transfers this property to another entity?
Well, is this a
I'm sorry,
501c3?
They are,
Or what? sort of
I know
entity
they are I believe they are a 501c3.
They are.
I'd have to, I know they are a registered nonprofit. I
think.
don't know if they're a C3, C7, C8.
We just surplused that other, the East Laurinburg Baptist Church without, having a public hearing.
We did, but there's, it's subject to upset bids. This is. a gift.
No, I get it. I'm
But I think if it's a nonprofit, 501c3, and if they're performing a function that the county might be
Could otherwise
doing,
do.
I think you probably have the authority to do it as a gift.
Okay.
But that's something we need to be sure of, that they are.
I'm 99% sure they are, so.
That could be
I'd sort of
found out
assume that.
quickly. I don't know what else they would do. They've been in it, they just had their 50th.
They would
All these
qualify,
questions answered.
they would
Because
qualify
they
as
can't
an
answer
agency.
questions until they know
Mr.
that
Chair,
they're gonna have it.
am I hearing that it would make you happy if we table this until perhaps next meeting, allow Kevin and Commissioner Ivy to have conversation with them about the details of their plan?
That would be fine with me.
Should they not come before the board?
But we do have a motion on the floor.
Well, that was almost dead.
Well,
Yeah,
that
it's
motion-
almost dead. I mean, and that's okay. But
I don't think Tim and I necessarily agree on what my second was based on. So I don't think,
no, I don't, it's not that I don't agree what it's based on. I don't see the purpose of. In other words,
the
that-
purpose is
that-
the purpose is you get a second.
right, well, the second with that purpose
But I
defeats the
second
first,
BJ motion.
but.
Well,
anyway.
we can't get.
But
to
I'll
that.
with-
We
I'll
can't go
with-
there yet.
Okay,
Go ahead.
well, I'll withdraw my motion. How about that?
Withdraw your
All right.
motion, then we can go there, right?
Hold on there. Kevin did say something about their meeting Thursday.
Yes.
Yes.
Are we gonna have something to take to them? Or then we table?
What I'll take to them is that this board is interested in transferring the property. What you want is at least a concept of at least phase one, and it may be something, the allocation of the 4.7 acres. What can you do with that? Or are you looking at, if that is a 10, 15 unit complex, okay, would eight, what is your ideal? And if you want to do in multiple phases, that's, just the concept and what are the requirements that you're going to need moving forward.
It just seemed to me that we should have Dr. Whitaker, Erica Whitaker, come here and make a presentation. She hasn't,
In our next meeting.
she hasn't done that yet.
She was supposed to
Tiffany
last
has
time.
done that.
She was here with you, though, right?
No, she wasn't
No,
able,
no.
she had something else come
Dr.
up.
Whitaker wasn't here. And until we hear from her, we're gonna have these questions.
And I did speak with Dr. Whitaker last week,
She needs to speak.
and they are working on the plan, but they cannot do the engineering and architectural studies.
So if I am in order, given that Commissioner Ivy's
Withdrawn.
withdrew his motion, may I make a motion that both Commissioner Ivy and Mr. Patterson have some detailed conversation with SCAP, so that when they come back, Dr. Whitaker, she can answer some of these questions, because they did make a presentation, and I hate to keep coming back.
Right.
And then we be prepared to make a decision.
But see, Dr. Whitaker,
Wait,
the only
hang on
one
a second. We that's his motion.
presentation.
Is there, Clarence, I think, has a second for that motion. Now, John, your comment.
My comment was, the only one can make Tiffany is not the director of Southeastern Partnership. Dr. Whitaker is the one that should come here and make the presentation. She hasn't done that yet. And that's why we have all these questions.
And I think she was originally gonna do that, but she
hasn't done it.
so she had some kind of conflict that night.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thank you.
Took a long way on
It
that.
took a while.
We went the long way around that one.
Okay.
Johnson.
Johnson, that project is underway. Demolition is significantly in process. If you wanted to know what underneath the gym floor looked like, that's it. And that is the men's bathroom. I took this picture last Thursday, I believe. The female bathroom was tarped up for asbestos and lead abatement. So that is ongoing. So that project is continuing.
Okay.
Laurel Hill Community Center, the contractor turned over keys to the facility last week. I signed the notice of significant completion this afternoon, returned it to the architect. There is still a punch list of items to do. Three things that are noticeable. The front glass on the building, there's one panel that still has to come in. It's currently with plexiglass. And then one panel on the front. It's a double pane glass. When they installed it, the contractor was installing it, the inside pane shattered, so they'll have to replace that. Also, the partition in one of the meeting rooms has not come in yet. They're hoping in November, but then again, that date has bounced around from January back to November, so we'll find out. But it is a polling place, so they should be voting there tomorrow
In the new building.
in the new building.
Okay.
Furniture has been ordered. Once it arrives and is installed, we will have, or as we get that date expected, we will have a open house in the facility.
And the pickleball court people love it.
They are out there every day.
They are loving that pickleball court.
So good.
Have you tried it yet?
No, no, but you'd almost have to get a number to get out there on that thing as many are there.
Pickleball.
Huh? You have to go out there and play. Go out there about 7:30 in the morning. Yes.
Okay, let's keep moving.
Okay. Boards and committees.
Have a unique situation tonight. Have 3 positions to be filled on the Historic Commission Board. I have 4 people, and I want to recommend all 4 of them. We have a policy that calls for 12. My question to the board, can we add 1 additional person to the 12-member board? Because I want to recommend all 4 of these people, these applicants, to be appointed to the Historic Commission Board. They have an issue getting a form.
You can expand the board if you choose to, or you can make one of them an alternate.
That was my suggestion. Just make
Okay.
one an alternate.
We'll make
instead
one
of-
then an alternate. Which one? In the order that they appear, would set Allen, Brian Gibson, and Chesley Jackson. The Johnson would be members, and the alternate would be Adam Peel.
And he would
That
have
work.
voting authority, assuming all 12 of the other.
Right.
folks
If somebody was not there, you would fill in as a voting member. So
So there would almost always be somebody.
there would almost always be there.
Yeah.
Because
So that's my motion.
we sometimes have a problem.
I second it.
I like that motion.
All right.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Commissioner Offer, I have been asked, and I'm sure after tonight, you'll certainly be asked, why we did not consider doing something like this for that Parks and Rec board. And I just need an answer, because I'm sure, I was asked, not by Mr. McCahan, by somebody else. So I heard Mr. McCahan didn't get on, could not have been made an option.
The reason I didn't do it then, I didn't think about it. Tim just gave me some good sage advice, and that's why it wasn't done before. I didn't think of it. Never thought of it.
That's not a, maybe that's probably a pretty honest answer.
That's an honest answer, man. That's a good honest answer.
I think we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. All right.
Okay. Back with this. Of course, we have been using the opioid committee, has been meeting, has been active. November 15th at 6 o'clock, we are having a community meeting at the Storytelling Arts Center. We are looking at the effects of opioids and any other substances on our community, on our families. This would be the first of several community-focused events, which we're looking to bring people in. We do have an expert on the effects of opioids coming in. We have a well-known family member who would speak on their personal personal family dealings. They lost a family member to opioids, in addition to having other agencies there. But the goal is to actually help start creating a community forum, a public discussion about substance use in the community, finding best ways to move
What
forward.
time?
Where is that meeting?
6 o'clock at the Storytelling Center.
Okay. Who will be over that? Will you be holding that meeting?
Yes.
I've got a conflict and I can't be there.
I will be there.
And I hope that as many of us who can attend will attend, but I've got a conflict out of town that day, at 6 o'clock on November 15th.
And the goal will be to probably after the holidays have another event similar to this in Wagram, as well as probably Laurel Hill. And then look to have other events on a continuing situation based on how the conversation develops.
I like the idea of going to different communities, involve everybody, because everybody not gonna come to Laurinburg. You know?
Right.
So I think that's a good idea. So Wade will be next, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless we do it alphabetically and they'll go to gifts.
No, Wade will be next.
Go ahead.
Also, did receive notification that we have received a $50,000 grant from East Point on their community initiatives. And this is one that we submitted based on where the opioid committee's been looking at. We're looking to develop a coordinator, someone who can sit and work in between different agencies that are dealing with substance abuse. The crisis, opioids, between the hospital, public safety, DSS, health department, East Point, someone, and as well as family members who can actually sit there and help make these connections, because East Point has access to resources that the hospital doesn't always have time to utilize. At DSS, that it's hard to coordinate all that together. So the goal would be to help develop this so that position can be there. Also, part of it is when someone, ultimately the goal is one EMS or when law enforcement deploys Narcan, give someone Narcan in the field. A lot of times they're going from they will be dead in moments to 1 or 2 doses to 1, 2, or 3 doses of Narcan. I feel fine now. No, I'm not going to the hospital. Having somebody who would be there to reach out to that individual or that family and find out if you're willing to reach out for help, we can help you connect.
That's a good idea, Kevin.
Yeah. So if somebody's not willing, you can't make them. But
To have someone in that position to navigate this whole. Okay, I like that.
yeah. So, but that will be there. We actually will have providers there that will have materials for people to take out. We actually are working with East Point. They will have doses of Narcan that people can take. And with that, we'll also be working with Robert Sampson our EMS director will actually also do a demonstration or training on how to administer Narcan.
When you
I'd
say
like to see
people,
that.
when you say people can take, I mean people can leave with
People
doses.
can leave with. If you have someone in your residence you may have someone who is elderly who is on a prescription Narcan, prescription painkiller, but they may not remember if they took their last dose or not.
I don't know if I want people going around shooting me with
Yeah.
this stuff.
In addition to, well, Whit knows that I'm a user, but I'm not going to get help. But you know what? My wife would be willing to come down and have it in the house. So it may be family members would be able to have access to it.
That makes a lot of sense.
So.
Really it does.
So if you hear out there, the county manager is giving out Narcan to people, yes, I am.
Be careful.
So,
But with this position, you said a person navigate the whole thing. Is that East Point would hire that person?
the county will. And I'll bring a budget adjustment, at the December board meeting for that.
I won't be here,
But the $50,000 grant for that is great, but that's 1 year of an
Yes.
employee. That's not a continuing grant, right?
Uh,
Then after that, the opioid settlement doesn't even pay for the salary then. So
with that, it would pay for the salary, but it would pay for salary and operations.
I mean, I'd like to see that used. I mean, I don't know what we can do, but I'd like to see it used for
You'd
helping
like to see something a
somebody.
little more tangible.
So helping somebody rather than hiring another employee. But I don't know. I don't know.
but then you
Ins
need
and
an
outs of it.
employee to kind of navigate the whole thing, you know?
Yeah, but
and
then
get
if
it
you ain't
from
got no
my
money,
perspective.
but then if you ain't got no money
Folks,
left
we
over,
can't
Yeah,
solve,
you're right, you're
solve this tonight. If
Yeah.
you don't mind, let's.
Also with this, the National Council, who is involved with this, is also looking to continue litigation against McKinsey and Company. They were one of the distributors for opioids. They were originally going off of negative affirmation. They are now requesting positive affirmation that Scotland County, as well as all of their clients, would like to continue with this litigation. If the board approves this, I will send that positive affirmation.
I'll make a motion that we request, that we approve that.
Continued litigation.
Mhm.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Alford. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you.
Okay. We've already discussed the track. Just as an additional item, Ronnie Ivy with the Sheriff's Department is retiring. And with this, it was submitted late for the consent agenda. He is retiring, so it is requested by the sheriff that we surplus his sidearm and authorize it to sell to him for a sum of $1. Of course, general statute requires that he is available to purchase it at market value or at the value determined by the Board of Commissioners. So, but that is the request from the sheriff.
And this is something that most of you know is done fairly frequently.
This is done on
And
retirement.
it's usually
yes.
in the consent.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
A motion by Carol, second by John.
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself from that vote if I have your permission, just because that's a family member. So if that's all right.
That, well, I'm not sure that you can do.
I don't think you can do that, Tim.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I don't think that's.
I thought I could, but
It-
I mean, I don't care, but I
You don't
just,
have any pecuniary.
I think.
oh, I have no
I
interest
think
in it. So,
what you have done is what you are supposed to do.
okay.
The chair will determine
Gotcha.
from the legal counsel that you are,
I
not-
don't think he's disqualified.
He's
you're not disqualified.
Okay.
You can just remain silent.
That's fine,
You
yeah.
can remain silent if you choose to. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it.
Also, in your
Right.
packet, there is
Oh, I'm gonna get the
also
gun
a
or whatever.
flyer about a new program that is started. The state is pushing it out through NCDIT. And basically, there is a program that would allow people who are who are income of 200% of federal poverty guidelines or less, or beneficiaries of SNAP, Medicaid, federal public housing, or are approved for benefits under free and reduced lunch. They may be able to get assistance on their internet accounts. Anybody, this is always the fun part. You can go to getinternet.gov, go to a friend's house, go to mobile device, go to library, but you can apply there for this. Please share this flyer with any group that is out there. This is an information that we would like to have be shared as broadly as possible. And I believe that is all.
Thank you, sir. County Commissioner News.
I only have one thing, and that is that I want to apologize publicly for not recognizing Dr. Carolyn Banks when we did the proclamation. She was present on behalf of the school board, in that we sent invitations to the fire chief and school system. And also Fire Chief Jordan McQueen couldn't be here because of another obligation, but Dr. Banks was here, and I felt recognized. So.
I did see her there. I was wondering why she was here.
I did see her too. Would you?
When
Carolyn Banks.
When I made the presentation to the young lady.
Oh, to the young lady, that's the part I missed,
Dr.
okay.
Banks was here. She was supposed to.
Okay, she was, I knew she was sitting there, I didn't know. Okay.
Since I'm not going to be as busy tomorrow as you are, would you like me to call her and
If you
apologize?
will, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, I hate that. Okay.
Do you happen to have her number? If you'll give it to me afterwards.
I'll text it to you.
Okay, that's great. Clarence.
Nothing.
Ms. McCall.
I will not be here in December. We all know that, but I don't want the issue of the funding for our Arts Council to not be a priority for us. They have come before us and presented a great deal of information about what they do, their mission, their board. They had 10 or 15 people here, and they are a working board. These programs that our citizens participate in, it is because of volunteers. And if they, working with volunteers, you don't always have them. So I'm just, putting in advocating that we have how much money do we have left in the in ARPA?
I don't have that number.
But it's a large amount.
1.6-ish or so.
I agree with Carol, I really want to fund ours.
Yeah. So, I'm saying that, and we'll leave that with you and with the 7 that'll be sitting here in December.
Would you like to make that in the form of a motion?
Well, I'll make the motion that we go ahead and grant the request.
I second that motion.
How much is the request?
Yeah, how much is it?
I think it was 50.
Over 2 years.
I'm gonna,
Oh, yeah.
50,000 over 2
2
years.
years.
Over 2 years.
Yeah.
Over 2 years.
For 2 years. Well, I don't know.
Like 100,000.
No,
No,
25.
25 and 25.
25 and 25. I mean, we gave the
That's
animal
very
shelter
low. That's
35,
not a
we
lot.
gave domestic violence 35. I know the remaining funds can absorb the 2-year 50,000. So
But you're
I'd
not,
like
well,
to-
but can we take that from that?
Hmm?
Can we use that for that? I mean, I'm not against it. I'm just saying, is that the bucket we can take it from?
You can fund Arts Council.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a
County.
affiliate of the North Carolina State Arts Council.
we have a motion and a
Yeah,
second. Any
motion.
further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Thank you. And in addition to that, I will say goodbye. I will say that my 12 years here with various members, I think everybody's sitting here. We've been together 12. But anyway, it's been an experience that I will value for the remainder of my life. I'm proud of my service to Scotland County. It was an honor and a privilege to serve. And I value the friendships and the relationships that I've gained, and that I'm available in the future for whatever may develop if my experience, knowledge, and willingness would apply.
Are you still on the East Point board?
Hmm.
Are you still on the East Point board?
Well, I can be. I'll have to apply. And I will do that between now and December. You do not have to be a commissioner to serve on that board. And I would like to continue. I've been on it for 12 years. I know that operation and that organization well. The learning curve for it would be pretty steep for somebody coming in new. And I'm willing to travel to Mount Olive once a month.
I knew it was somebody I thought was in Lumberton. That was you, Jason.
That was
wasn't
me.
it?
I didn't,
I
that
said,
shows what I
no
know.
way it's in Lumberton.
I'm sorry, do we appoint you?
That shows what I know.
So that would we automatically have to reappoint you okay, that's
And
something.
I will need to submit an application.
Because when
to
she comes
Jason, and
off,
he
that
will-
create, I said, when you come off, that would create a vacancy.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, all right, okay.
So I'll reapply and y'all can decide in December.
All right.
Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Johnson. I appreciate it.
What about our historic property?
Hard on it, and I know you've been one of the leaders.
I don't know. Anything else you wish to say?
Hmm.
Anything else?
That's about it, I think.
Tim? Mr. Alford? John?
Yes, I just want to say one thing. It's been a heart-pleasing pleasure to serve with these two gentle ladies. County commissioners over the past 12 years. I've known you both for substantially greater than that. And I'm gonna miss you.
And we're gonna miss y'all.
Yes, we are.
We're really gonna miss y'all. And we hope that if you're going to Fayetteville, you can stop by Waverly and say hello to me every once in a while, okay?
And I'm just right down the road.
I go by your house every day.
This is, is that your comment?
That's my comment. Stop by and say hello.
Okay.
Because I miss you. I'll be glad to see you,
Okay.
including you too, Kelvin.
No,
Jason don't stop. I know he better stop.
I'm gonna ask my friend Ed Johnston, because he's worked with both of y'all for so long, if there's anything that he wishes to say.
I consider each of these individuals good friends and much more than working together with them. It's been my pleasure, and I didn't have a chance to speak with you before the meeting. I did with Ms. Golston, and appreciate the fact that I was able to work with you on the end of your service, and I know
Your daddy worked for me again. His daddy got me appointed to town board of Waverly, so he worked for me in the end. His daddy
it's just
began.
been a real honor to be involved with each of you.
Okay. Well, thank y'all.
Does that give you the same option if you, same thing?
Yeah.
Well, and I will just, again, both of them I've considered close friends. And I've happened to know Betty for a long time, but Carol and I have become close over the last 10 years. I will value your friendship much beyond the next coming days. To Commissioner Gibson, good luck tomorrow. I've talked to a couple of the candidates today, and they said, I'm just ready for it to be over. And I think all of us have been in that position, so I know that's true. Mr. Ivy, also to you, I wish you the best of luck.
This time tomorrow,
Two
I'll be
hours,
over
3
at the
hours.
crowd. You know. I'll be over at the crowd.
I know, we did that.
I know.
Thank you.
Well, and the one, I will give myself credit. I'm glad we gave the plaques away to these two ladies 2.5 hours ago.
Yeah, look at that, I know.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll be stopping and getting dinner on the way to Fayetteville.
Call, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Betty, I need a second. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
What time is it, John? I
20
can't never
minutes.
forget military
20
time.
minutes to 9.
Okay. They should change that clock to the regular time. That's what they do.
I love it, but you don't do that. It'll always come out to get you.
Yeah.
Well, I looked at the agenda and didn't think it was gonna be that long.
Okay, I don't blame you. I can't say I blame you.
But historically,
I appreciate it. Yes, sir, brother.
We'll talk about that on that after.
You gonna win. And it should be that way.
Y'all be good.
Tim, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank
Bet you go.
Thank you. If I just
No,
survive.
not as much as I thought we would.
Well,
I'm trying to
I'm-
remember
Well,
what we
I'm
did.
hoping you will. I feel confident that you will, but you don't ever know.
Just be looking forward to be
Yeah, I'm sure. I've been invited to, come have a beer with y'all. tomorrow night.
Any idea? They don't have a concept.
I've got a meeting with an attorney from Atlanta about this other stuff.